Hi, I'm Alex Sekernik. I'm the president and CEO of Nova Royalty. We're a copper nickel royalty company listed in the TSX Venture, and it's a pleasure to tell you all about us today. We started Nova in 2018, and the idea was very, very simple. We wanted to create the easiest investment for anyone to participate in the energy transition. And when you look at the commodities required to actually take the world to net zero 2050, you will see that it's very much of a copper story. And whether it's electric vehicles, whether it's associated charging infrastructure, whether that's wind, whether it's solar, it's very much the copper age that we're entering. And without a publicly listed copper royalty company, we felt that it was the perfect time for us to become a first mover and really focus on that segment. Now, for those of you familiar with the royalty model, you would know that it's in many ways the best way to invest in mining because you don't have the capital cost requirements, you don't have the operating cost overhang. It's very low cost structure in terms of running a company. You can run that obviously for a very small fraction of what it would take to run a miner. And we felt that it was a great opportunity for us as a first mover because to date, everyone had been focused very much on the precious metals. And so we put together a great team in 2018, which I'll tell you all about. And we went about the business of really scouring the world, mapping out all the regions, identifying the deposits of interest, and really particularly the royalty holders on those deposits. Now, if you know anything about the mining business, it's not really viable to walk into a major mining company. And if you're talking about copper, you really need to get exposure to the major deposits given the capital intensity and the capital and the technical complexity of running these projects. You're not going to walk into a major mining company and originate the royalty, at least not today. The only way to get royalty exposure to these deposits is really to go back 30, 40, 50 years and find the original prospectors that sold where were at that point much earlier stage smaller mines to the majors at that point. Of course, those deposits then grew much larger, much more advanced, and now that as they're nearing production, they're completely different entities. But those families still have royalties on those deposits, which were sold some time ago. Now, using the relationships of our team, that's exactly what we did. And as I'll run you through later, we've put together a portfolio of really royalties on some of the most important copper and nickel assets out there, whether that's Taca Taca First Quantum, or West Wall, which is owned by Anglo American and Glencore, or Nueva Union, which is owned by Teck and Newmont, et cetera. We've put together a great diversified portfolio of really top tier mines. And we think that that's a fantastic way for any investor to participate in copper or the energy transition or anything to do with that theme. And we're really excited about what the future bodes. In terms of where we sit in the sector, copper is one of the world's largest metal markets. It's $250 billion and growing. It really is essential, as I said, in every major application of electrification of the world, as well as of course, the former old world applications, as we can call them, whether that's manufacturing or infrastructure and the like. And so we feel like this market is going to keep growing quite a bit from current levels. And we really want to position ourselves as really one of the premier participants in it. And so the foundation we put together of top tier royalties on mines that will go for 30, 50, 70 or more years, we feel is a great way to begin that. Now, if you look at what's happening actually in mining finance, we feel like the royalty model will actually become a much more prevalent part of the sector in the aggregate. We're already seeing this in precious metals, where I think royalties now account for roughly a third of royalties and streams now account for roughly 1/3 of all project financings in terms of capital raised. And we feel that this model will simply keep growing all the way through the mining space. After all, it's much simpler than equity or debt. In many ways, it combines the best of both, especially right now as you see debt providers increasingly withdraw from the sector due to ESG concerns or capital or reputational and the like. So we're really excited about what we've put together so far, and we look forward to participating in the sector and getting exposure to more great assets. This is just in terms of what we've done. In terms of the assets we acquired, we listed the company via direct listing in October 2020. We were quite small at the time. We're about a $20 million pre-listing market cap based on our last financing. Since then, we've done 7 transactions in these 12 months. The company has grown quite a bit. Our current market cap is approximately 280 million, and we have royalties really on some of the most exceptional deposits out there, whether that's Taca Taca First Quantum or West Wall, which is Anglo American and Glencore, Vizcachitas, and the like. And so we're super excited about the potential and current status of our portfolio. In August 2021, we acquired their first cash flowing royalty on a mine called Aranzazu, which is owned by Aura Minerals, which has done a great job of really increasing production and lowering costs of the asset, and what it looks like now, a great long life camp. This royalty should be enough to fulfill all of our G&A requirements. So at this point, we will only be going back to the market for further capital raises as we build the portfolio. In terms of our royalty portfolio, this gives you a sense for where we are globally. Obviously, portfolio very heavily concentrated in the Americas, Canada, Chile, Argentina, is really Mexico is really the focus for us so far. In terms of geographic focus, we feel like this is probably where it's going to stay overall, although we are looking at other locations. And of course, Australia would be a great add for us. With this will very much be the continued focus of the company. In terms of our main assets, this is really very much the core of the value of the company, the 6 major development assets that we hold. The headline royalty, no question, is Taca Taca, which is First Quantum's next major greenfield projects. It's exciting to see the progress in Argentina as they look to negotiate a stability agreement with the government, and hopefully construction decision will come in the next couple of years, which should be realistic given the guidance we've received so far. We own a 0.42% NSR on the project, expecting to produce somewhere between 200 and 250,000 tons a year of copper on average at Taca Taca. And again, this is truly one of the world's largest copper development projects. So this can grow quite a bit over time. And so we're quite excited about what that means for us. At current estimated production levels, it should be somewhere between 800 to 1,000 tons of copper equivalent to Nova, which we feel at the current prices and potentially what can happen is very exciting. Now, moving forward, Nueva Union, this is a joint venture between Teck and Newmont. Again, this is one of those multi-generational development opportunities that both companies have referenced quite repeatedly. We own a 2% NSR on copper revenue on roughly 20% of the mine plan for the La Fortuna project. This is one of the highest grade major porphyries in the world. Right now, the reserve is 680 million tons at roughly 0.9% copper equivalent, which is very, very high for something that size. They're actually looking to drill it down much further as they see geological potential. They've actually requested a permit for 176 additional drilling platforms, and which would cost about $150 million of additional drilling to investigate the deep portions of that deposit, as it's only been drilled to about 500 meters. So we're very excited about the future of La Fortuna and what that holds, and obviously it's a great complement to our other deposits. Westwall and Vizcachitas, these are 2 major projects. Actually, they sit right next to each other in Chile's second largest copper production belt, which includes other major mines like Pelambres and Bronces and Andina. These are the 2 largest, most advanced greenfields in the entire belt. They're both 2 billion tons and growing. We're super excited about the potential of that region. We feel like it's a natural next major copper production region in Chile, given the proximity of the 2 deposits and their growing size. So we're very keen to see developments there. Westwall is owned by Anglo and Glencore. Vizcachitas is owned by a junior company called Los Andes Copper, which is currently advancing the project and kind of will look to partner it to a major in the next couple of years. So again, I mean, this is a major belt in Chile, which is very similar in profile in terms of what we look forward to Taca Taca and Nueva Union. And so we're very excited to see what happens there. In terms of moving on to nickel, we own the royalty on the Dumont project in Quebec, which is the second largest nickel reserve in the world, fully permitted on the infrastructure in Quebec, which has been one of the places that's been most enthusiastic about drawing the battery industry. So we really feel like it's meant to be a linchpin of the future Quebec EV battery economy. And so we're excited to see what that brings. Right now, the project is in a strategic process with Waterton, which is 100% owner. They're looking for a strategic partner to bring that forward. And we'll see what happens. It's probably going to be somewhere middle of 2022 that we can, by which point we can expect an outcome. And then the last one being Twin Metals, which is in the Duluth complex in the US. Duluth complex accounts for 34% of all US copper reserves and 95% of all US nickel reserves. Again, this is an area, although it's extremely prominent camp, and we think it's essential for the US's future EV ambitions, it's also very controversial from a regulatory perspective. We invested $2 million into the royalty in November 2020, wanted to get some exposure to what we thought was a systemically important camp, but at the same time, we also don't expect much to happen there for quite a bit, given the uncertainty there. What we do believe, though, is that given the difficulty of permitting in the US, especially recently, you'll probably see a lot more production come out of South America, just because that's where you do see a lot more openness to the mining sector in general. So if you look at the bulk of our portfolio, we've obviously focused in that direction, and we're very keen to see what happens. And then this is our first producing asset, Aranzazu. Again, we picked it up in August 2021. It's very challenging to find a very high quality mid-sized copper mine. This is a business which has a way of eating up capital. Even if you're making money on the operating side, capital often eats up all of your excess cash. In this case, Order Minerals has done an exceptional job of really just working the asset and generating real returns. If you look at every quarter since 2018, when they reopened the mine, you see higher production, lower costs, and then the reserves and resources above replacement. So really an exceptional job by the team. We were very pleased to invest in the royalty in August 2021, having acquired it from a third party who is the former owner of the asset. And so right now, this is the cash flow from here should be enough to offset our G&A for the year. Order is also talking about doubling production, so we're excited to see what that can bring, and potentially it can become an independent cash flow generator in its own right for the company. Just in terms of capital structure, so you get a sense for how we are. We've got about 83 million shares outstanding, market cap about $280 million. We have $3 million of cash in the books, and along with $20 million of available on our credit facility with BD Capital, who is our major shareholder. We have more than enough liquidity if we need to go do something. We've been very well supported by our shareholder base from the very beginning. BD Capital, which is one of the largest real estate investors in Canada, has been backing us from the very beginning. They own about 11%. Then Adrian Day and Paul Stevens have been there from the very beginning as well. US global investors came in recently, and Resource Capital, also by virtue of us doing a transaction for Vizcachita. So really, it's management and directors. We own about 20% of the company from the beginning. So it's a pretty tightly held register in terms of the people that have been involved from the company, either as founders or significant backers. And that's what's allowed us really to grow at a pretty rapid pace. We've been fortunate to get research coverage from two very good houses in terms of Cantor Fitzgerald and PI Financial. And that research kind of helps highlight in terms of what's already in the company. Both are quite supportive in terms of the foundation that we've built so far. And so we're excited to see as things move forward. In terms of the team, and really, like, this is really what makes everything work here. If you look at the advisors that we have on the right side, these are really some of the most qualified people in the sector. Parvi Farsangi, he's the former chief operating officer of Valley Inco. Doug Silver, truly one of the legends of the royalty sector. Darren Wagner, one of the best geologists in Canada, two-time prospector of the year, very successful ex-CEO as well. Christian Rios, really one of the best geologists in Latin America, who also understands the Canadian capital markets very well. Frank Hannegarn, former chief operating officer of Core and former senior exec at Newmont when the Franco portfolio was still sitting there. So really, we have the benefit of a phenomenal team of really experienced people. That's what's allowed us to really map out the entire world, understand what we want, and really prioritize and focus in the sector. And then, as you've seen, also executing quite a few transactions, which have been very value additive for the company. In terms of the board, Andrew Gravel, he's the former head of M&A at Strata Copper. Again, one of the most experienced executives out there. Really just adds to the entire senior nature of the team. Brett Heath, Brett and I put the company together back in 2018. He's been really at the head of it from the very start. Really just a great presence in the overall company. So great success with building the Tala royalty and streaming into really from very little to what is now an NYSE listed company. So it's been a real pleasure to do this with him, and really the rest of the board from EB, Luke, and Dennis. It's really been a real pleasure to work with everyone and see the company succeed. In terms of where we are, it's still very early for us. We've got a foundation. We've got some great assets that are moving ahead toward production. So that's great to see. And we really started the company with the idea of building the simplest way for people to invest in what we think will be the major commodity of the future, which is copper, and also get some nickel exposure as well. And so we've got our base. We're cash flowing and self-sustaining. We have a great pipeline ahead, so we can go from a foundation to real critical mass, and we're excited about what the future holds. Thank you again for learning more about us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us through social media or emails or something along those lines. And again, thank you very much for your time.